Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. That's a 2011 Toyota. It's a Sienna. It's got the big 3.5. Customer left it in the parking lot here over the weekend. It is now Monday, and she states that there's a power steering light on. So it's a little red light with little brackets around it and a little exclamation point right next to the battery light that is also on. So didn't mention that, but that's on as well. Had to jump start it. It just barely cranked about 2 times and it went to clicking. So I jumped it, brought it in, put the charger on it, set it to nuclear, and I'm assuming we have a bad alternator, but we're gonna double check. And let's kind of do some preliminary checks here. I think car's got about $1.80 on it or so, somewhere's in that neighborhood. We'll turn this little guy on. We'll get some base measurements here. Well, she's charging good now, 14.16 is where it's at. We'll shut that little guy off. And it's gonna calm back down here. Let me just go ahead and fire it up here if we can. Okay. Right now there's no lights on the dash. We're only at 12.5 volts. No load. The only load is the brake, you know, the brake lights, man. That's right at the alternator. Wow, what in the world here? That's using the alternator case as a ground. So climate control's kicking on here, AC compressor's kicking on. All right, let me shut this off for a second. 3.8 hours it says. Remove front bumper is step 1. Step 2 is remove radiator fan assembly. Step 3, unplug the alternator, remove it. So before, I don't think we're gonna go that route. I think if we take the fans out, if the fans come out, great. If they don't, not great. I think we'll have room. Needless to say, it's very difficult to get down here to do much. But before we tear it apart, there's 2 fuses that run down there, pin 1 and pin 2. One comes from a fuse inside the car, one comes from a fuse out here. I got us a test light. We're gonna kick the key on and see if we have at least 2 power sources in our connector adjacent to each other. Because it says pin 1 and pin 2. So we'll do that, because if we don't have that, then we're not gonna, you know, we're not gonna tear into it as far as taking all this stuff apart. I guess what I'm saying is our approach will be a little bit different. Let me kick the key on, but I think after we do that, we're gonna take some of this off, we're gonna pull the fans out and see if we can get ourselves some room to do the final checks if we can. All right, the key is in the cut on position, and I'm just gonna check a couple of these here. That one lights up, that one lights up, and they're right next to each other, so it must be pin 1 and pin 2, and then the other 2 do not light up. Okay, so we know that we have, let me shut the key off here. So pretty easy. We know we have both of our fuses are in good shape. Okay, just a small load on them. So that leaves us with only 2 other wires down there. The one from the PCM that controls the alternator, and the light circuit. And the light circuit we're not concerned about because it works. Let's get a 10 mil, rip and tear, baby. Whoa, dude. Do these fans appear that they'll come out? For Rizzle, they will. How about this? And it looks like once those are out, that there's ample room to remove the alternator, or we could remove this front core support and tilt the rad forward a little bit, which I think will be plenty of room. In order to pull the fans out, we need to remove this hose. So let me raise this thing up, see where the peacock is. Oh, it's right there. Let me just go get a bucket, throw underneath it. We'll get this thing drained. Oh, look at that. You can even get it from up here. All right. There we go. Grab a pair of pliers here. Alright, let me shut the peacock down. We only needed to drain enough to get this hose off. Alright, let me just stuff this under here. Whoa, sugar! There's still a little bit of water there. Okay. Now that we spilled the antifreeze all over the place. Unplug the controller. See if we can't get these little retainers out of here without breaking them. There's two. Of course, there's a third one that's a real PETA to get to. Oh, it wasn't much of a PETA. Not bad at all. That gets our harness unhooked. We'll stick that to the side. Maybe there's some transmission lines or something hooked to this thing. Oh, there is, way down yonder here. Not cool, Toyota. There's just one clip. Let me get a mirror and see what it takes to get that little clip off. And I'll pull this up and out of here. Oh, yeah. You're my biggest fan. Now we can see. However, don't be stupid. Get your piece of cardboard you keep over here for situations just like this. Slip it right in there. Conveniently sized for this radiator. Isn't that nice? We need to trim just a whisper off this thing. I'm gonna expose the wires in the back of that connector so we can verify by color who's who, and then we'll see what's up. Back of that connector should pop right apart. There it is. Okay, we've got a white, a red, a green, and a blue. We're gonna plug it back up. We're gonna find this wiring diagram. We're gonna back probe into it, make sure everything's cool. We're gonna call it a day. The blue wire is the wire from the PCM. What kind of signal is supposed to be on that wire? Yeah, I don't know either. No idea. Service information gives no information. It says, as far as alternator checks, it says to check to see if the alternator is spinning. If it is, and the battery light remains on, replace the alternator. No, folks, I am not making that up. That is the level of stupidity in service info. No theory in operation on the alternator whatsoever, as far as how it works or how it functions. As far as PCM control is concerned, it has no details on that. So we'll see what we have here. what did I say? It was a blue wire. We'll probe into it. We're plugged back in. We're just sitting at a baseline of 0 volts. I'm gonna start it up. Okay. And it's just kind of staying there at 0 volts. Okay, I see. Let me shut this thing off. Alright, I didn't want to run it too long there. I got the fans out of it and the AC was kicking on. I should have shut that off. At any rate, with the connector unplugged into the PCM line, it goes high. It goes to 12 volts. And as soon as I plug it in, it gets pulled right to ground. But then we can also hear the alternator start to moan. I don't know if you guys were hearing that when I was plugging it in or out. That tells me that the PCM has some sort of control. Now I'm assuming it's looking for, some sort of, voltage sense. Then it will start regulating it. I'm comfortable to make a call on on an alternator at this point. I'll get one coming here from Napa. And we'll get that put on there. Batteries from 2021. I'm going to give the customer the choice to, charge and test this battery or replace it. Totally up to them. See what they say there. And kind of go from there. Other things you can think about. I believe this has a decoupling pulley on it. It appears to. You can have an issue with your decoupling pulley where there's a mechanical disconnect between the alternator and the pulley. And that's easy enough to tell. I mean, you can pull the alternator checker. You can, just look in the front of it and see if the rotor's moving inside the alternator. In this case, ours was. And oftentimes when I've seen those decoupling pulleys break, usually they're knocking pretty good, making all kinds of rattle and clicks and clanks and bangs. But anyhow, let's get the battery unhooked. Losing my train of thought here this morning for some reason. Let's get our battery unhooked, get this alternator out of here, and we'll keep on keeping on. So what's interesting is I did a little poking, nothing in service info about this M circuit. That's just how they have it labeled on the factory diagram, just as the M circuit. So, and that's one we were just on. We made sure that we had power on. The two we're supposed to have power. The other one's the light circuit, which we don't care about. We know that works. And then this M circuit, which I assume, or started to assume, that perhaps it's just a feedback circuit. It's just a circuit that goes back to the PCM that says, hey, here's our state of charge, here's our load. It's a digital type feedback circuit. And I believe that's actually what it is. Could not find that in service info. However, according to the internet, sucks when we pay a lot of money for service info. You can't find it there, but at the end of the day, I just Googled it, Toyota, generator, Denso generator, M circuit. And according to Google, it is a digital feedback monitor circuit back to the PCM. So self-regulated alternator, and with a feedback circuit to the PCM to let it know its status. And looking in service info, I didn't see where it could generate any codes against it or anything like that. So now you know. Battery is unhooked. We're going to take the main battery cable here off the alternator. Got to figure out where the belt tensioner is. That's easy to get to. The customer wants to do the battery as well. They don't want it charged. They want it replaced. Can't say that I blame them. Coming up, well, let's see, it's February 21, so we're coming up on January 26, so battery's going to be about 5 years old here very soon. And it may be fine if you charge it, I'm sure. Stick that back in there. Okay, we've got a few things unhooked from the alternator. The wiring harness we have unhooked. The main battery we have unhooked. Take, whoops. A little rubber insulator here. Oh, that's interesting. That must fit like that. So that's good. There's something down here that resembles a tensioner. That's very tight. Wow, she's snug down there. Let me raise it up here and have a look-see. Well, it looks like a 5mm Allen wrench, I think. I'm going to see if we can shove that back and have it hold for us. We'll grab a 15 or 14 here. I don't know which one it is. Probably a 14 is going to be my guess. Get up on there, old son. Yes, sir. So we'll shove that back. I don't know if we can just stick a Allen wrench in there. Hold our tensioner back for us. Yes, sir. Look at that. Well, let's see. We could try to remember how this goes, or we could just look it up. I ordered a new belt as well. This appears to be original. Can't get that little guy up out of there. It's up around the alternator now. Up around that. Keep giving her a little seesaw action. There it is. There's the old belt. We're going to drain a little more juice out of the radiator here, because I think it's going to be easier if we remove this hose right here, because we've got to get, it'll just be easier. Trust me. Famous last words. We've got to get to the bottom alternator bolt, and this hose is right smack in the way. Weasel that clamp down. Get out the pick. See where we're at with our coolant level. Must be below this. Alright, so we'll shut the peacock. Alright. With a little bit of luck, she'll slip right out of there. I don't think we need to unhook any more of this harness. Perhaps this little connector up here. Now let me stuff a rag in this hole here, because it is peeing just a little bit. We'll stuff that in there. Hopefully we don't forget it. And it looks like the alternator bolts are a 14mm. At least this one is, the top one here. It is interesting that service info has you pulling the, you know, bumper cover and stuff off to do this. I mean, maybe there's something I'm not seeing here. I'm hoping I'm right though. As far as the bottom bolt goes, wrench probably isn't our best option. We're gonna come in with a short ratchet. See if we got enough room to get in here with this little guy. Hopefully we can frig up the head of that bolt. That would be foolish of us. Up in there with our little wrench. I'm on a bolt and I pulled and it cracked loose. Hopefully it's the bolt we need. I'm giving her one of these. If you're a mechanic, you know that move. It's the classic 2-finger tickler bolt remover. At least the bolts are coming out easy. Here we go. That's a bolt we just took out, right or wrong. It's a bolt and it's out. Now, we need a prying apparatus. Alternator moved, but feels like it's still held in with some other bolts. Perhaps I did not take out the correct bolt on the bottom here. Let me get a mirror. Give you the play-by-play here. You can't see, so I might better tell you what's happening. Now it looks like we took out the right one. And the best I can see, that's it. If something feels wiggly, like there's still a bolt holding it on, there probably is. Rookie mistake. There's this little metal bracket on the back side of this alternator. Look at that, makes it really loose. I pried, wiggled, pulled. I'm going to show you the mistake I made and how easy it is to make this mistake, because I didn't look hard enough. I just went over and looked at the new alternator and said, what the world, why won't you come out of here? Looks like it has 2 bolts that hold it in. There's a little bit of illusion of the optical sort on the alternator. Wait till you see this. It's kind of funny. Let's see if I can get the bolt out of the back of the alternator here. That holds this metal clip on, or holds this bracket on, which holds a wiring harness on. Super convenient. I'll show you how I made my mistake. One of the mistakes I've made in life. So here's your top bolt. This is the one with that little, the nut that can slide in, or the sleeve rather, that takes up the space here, okay? Bolt goes right in. That thing takes up space just like I did in high school. Then you look at this side and the other bolt slides in and threads into that. No, it doesn't. See, they're not aligned. This is what tricked me. I'm like, why won't this come out? Because this bolt just goes through. I should have known that this bolt is way too short, old son. This bolt goes through and goes into the timing cover or something. Alternator sits in there like this. That little bracket I just took off bolts on back here with this bolt of the 8mm variety. Sometimes you gotta slow down to go fast there, Rocco. So here we are. That was easy. I feel stupid. What are you gonna do? It's only Monday. This bracket down here I can't even show you. but here's the other bolt that holds the bracket on. They're both the same. Ay, ay, ay. Well, the good news is we didn't break anything in a fit of rage. So that's good. And what you need to do, or what you need to make sure, is before you slide this is the new alternator from Napper, not a sponsor, got the decoupling pulley already on it, great. You need to make sure that this nut is back flush. The rebuilders never push them back flush. So, easiest way to do that, stick your bolt in there. Or not. Just want to make sure these threads are all good. Yep, threads are all good. I don't know why I couldn't get it started the other way. Sometimes when they rebuild these alternators, they sandblast the case, I think, so it gets the threads a little funky. Yeah, for some reason I can't put it in that way. Let me get something to force it with. We'll use a wrench. Feels like it started. Yeah. It's all good. Okay, then what we do, tap on that a little bit, but you need to support this back here, so stick this on the edge of your bench, because if you just hit this, you risk the chance of just breaking the ear off. So I'm going to sit this on the edge of the bench, lightly give that some taps to make sure that's flush. And now you can see how that's, beyond flush, and that's popped out a little bit. But that's good, that's all normal. Okay, we're gonna set it back down in there, and I'm gonna get that bracket back on here, kind of weasel it back. This bolt here we have to tighten up. You can't even get to that sucker when the alternator's in. Like I say, Toyota usually doesn't do a lot of stupid stuff, but every once in a while, it gives you that domestic vibe. The old hanky in the socket trick. Hold our bolt here and see if we can't get this line back up. Hold that way back in on this bracket here. Alright, we're in the hole. Oh, I think we even have it started first try. I'm not going to tighten it up all the way. Okay, there we go. I ran it down a little bit snug and then just backed it back off. A couple of clicks. Now we need to find our other socket. Oh, I don't think we had I think we used a wrench, didn't we? So we have the top alternator bolt. Now this top bolt, when you run it in, it's going to get to a point where it gets tight, but it's not tight. You have to pull that nut all the way in, you know what I'm saying? You'll see here in a second. Let me grab a 14 socket. And I just put a transmission in a 2018 Chevrolet. I just did a Tahoe and a Chevy right back to back. Put brand new General Motors transmissions in them, because I can buy the training right from GM brand new. They usually have 4 or 5 of them right in stock. Right at our local dealership. What's that tell you? Want to run around and buy a Chevy truck? Anyhow, the one didn't make it through the weekend. Brand new. Everything's brand new. Brand new cooler, brand new lines, brand new everything. Yep. And it made it almost 100 miles. So that got towed back. So now I got to fight with GM on the warranty. I don't know. Some days I question myself. Oops, that's the reversey. That's reverse still. All right, there's that. Now I'm going to take and make sure that it pulled that nut through. I don't think it did. We don't have enough power there with the ratchet, or with the electric ratchet there. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It did not, because it just snapped out. I thought I was pulling that ear in on that alternator. I just want to make sure it's not binding up there and giving us a false sense of being tight. Okay, let me get the torque wrench. We're going to make sure those are all torqued to factory specs. Prior to doing that though, I want to put this wiring harness on so I don't forget it. There we go. Feels like it kind of did. And it did not, because it popped back out. Good enough. Click that harness back there. Well, I guess we can leave that cover off. I might revisit the generator wire there just to kind of see what's going on there. We're going to put the battery cable back on. Better give that one a handy before we go get the torque wrench. A very light snug on it. That's the metal bracket there on the back, so easy peasy. Before we put the belt on, pull this rag out. You want to clean all the junk up over here. We're going to hook this hose back up. And this is probably the most important part of the whole job. We have to put the clamp back. Now I know this lady shows this thing. We don't want her losing points, so in order to do that, trick the judges, make them think this thing's stock, you must line this clamp up precisely where it was. Boom, just like that. No judge is picking up on that, I'll tell you right now. Okay. I'm going to take and thread the belt back up through there. Not much to see there, even though you sat through all this rigmarole. And kind of go from there. Pull our pin back out. It's pretty handy when manufacturers do stuff like that, I'll be honest with you. Make it so you can lock your tensioner in place. It makes putting the belt on a million times easier when you don't have to fight the tensioner. Okay, we'll leave this stuff off until we're sure the car's good. There's that. Here comes the brand new one. Up and over your classic group 24F. Which means backwards. The posts are on backwards on these. There's that. These terminals are pretty clean. They're just kind of greasy because this car gets fluid filmed every year. Put a little grease up on that joint. Oh, we probably should find out. We got a tool right here. Never mind. Well, we'll leave that off because we mentioned we might come back and actually see if it's working. Why wouldn't it? That one's clean. Aftermarket battery, aftermarket belt, aftermarket alternator. What could go wrong? Don't answer that question. It's Monday. Okay. Here's the guy who can't even take a cap off a battery. Usually you give these things a little wiggle and they'll pop right off. Just like that. Okay, there's our grease. No reason we can't hook up the negative, right? Fans are unhooked. Alternator's unhooked. Negative's hooked back up. I don't think we can get in there. Nope, we'll get a real wrench. I'll get a torque wrench. I'm going to torque this, torque that, torque this, torque that. And then I'll double check the torque on everything else over there. So I just probed into the blue wire, the generator circuit, the M circuit. And it's sitting high, sitting at 12 volts or thereabouts, or 2 volts per division. Let me get something up on the screen here, not that it really matters. Go monitors, then we'll go volts average. So yeah, so we're about 11.7 volts coming out of that. I know the fans are out. I know the coolant is a little bit low, but we're gonna fire it up. Check a couple things. A, we're gonna check to see if it's charging. And B, we'll just see what that signal looks like coming out of the alternator. In case it's useful for somebody right now, but right now we're key off, everything's turned off. Our battery's almost fully charged at 12.5 volts, and we have 11.6 coming out of the alternator on that gen wire. Okay, let me reach in here and fire this pig up for a second. I didn't last very long. Started up at 14.5 volts, and it is some kind of duty cycle signal coming out of here, which is what we anticipated. Let's go down here. So there we are. That's the signal being sent back to the PCM from the alternator. 14.5 volts. I'm gonna shut it down. Okay, that's it. I don't want to run it too long. I did shut off the climate control. So how the ECM interprets that as far as yay or nay, or what use it has in its charging strategy, I don't know, because as I mentioned, they don't publish that, or at least I wasn't able to find it if they did easily. I do have a subscription to factory Toyota service info, which I didn't look. I was looking aftermarket. One thing we can do is we can, before we don't want to run it too long, obviously, without fans and full of coolant. We're not going to hurt anything here. We're going to push some buttons here. Don't know what we're doing. We're on ohms. There's some amps. There's some ampies. Is this the right way? We'll see what our alternator output is. And I'm just going to full load it, turn it on, flick on the headlights, flick on the rear defogger, flick a bunch of stuff on the inside. We'll see how much current this little guy's putting out. And then we'll just slap it back together. Okay, got everything turned on full blast. It's going backwards, but it's putting out 98 amps. 95.8, 96, 98 amps. Okay, so we're putting out 98 amps. Let me shut it off here. Alright, so that's good. Let me look and see what this thing was rated for. I don't even know why I try some days. According to service info, more than 30, it says. At full load, measuring alternator current should be more than 30 amps. Wow, how profound. Toyota's really let me down today. According to the Napper, it's 150 amp output alternator. So, you know, we were cranking out 100 just there at an idle. High beams on, blower on high, rear defogger, both seat heaters, and then the brake lights because I had the pedal wedged. I'm sure we're probably gonna be good. I'm gonna put this connector back together. Unplug that before I forget. Put that connector back together. And then I'm gonna stick the fans back in. And then we'll just make sure that we're putting more current in the battery than we're taking out. And if we are, we're gonna ship this thing down the road. And if we're not, well, I don't know. We'll fix it. Shouldn't take much. We didn't drain a whole lot out. I've got our amp clamp just around the negative post here. It's not zeroed. We could probably zero it. Okay, so we're zeroed, but we want to know, is the current leaving the battery, ultimately killing it, or is the current coming into the battery, keeping it healthy? How do we know we have our amp clamp on the right way? Easiest way to do that is to understand electrical theory, or just put a load on. Like I just turned on the headlight, it should be negative. Yes, we're negative 20 amps, all right? So that means we got our current clamp going the right way and we can trust our display. All right, so now we're negative, you know, half amp, you know. All right, let's go ahead and start it. I'm gonna put it at full load and we wanna see some kind of positive current here, letting us know that the alternator can keep up with the withdrawal demands from the battery. If that makes sense. All right, so I'm stepping on the brake, so you should see some withdrawals being done. I'm gonna start it. All right, it's running, and the only load on currently is the brake lights. And we can see we're replenishing the battery at 12 amps. I'm gonna turn all the loads on. So that's our high beam headlights. We're still on the positive side. High beams are on, blower motor's on high, rear defogger's on, and both seat heaters are on. We're at an idle at 8.4 amps to the good. 8.4 amps being positive, okay? That's full load. Brake lights, like I say, everything. And that's at an idle, so we can't complain about that. We'll come over here and see what the alternator's actually putting out. 99.2 is what the alternator is currently putting out right now. All right, do we want to see it put out the entire 150? I don't know. I don't think so. Doesn't really matter to me if it does, because what it does do is it keeps up with the demand of the car. Whether or not it can put out a full 150, it keeps up with the realistic demand, which is all of the lights on, all of the seat heaters on, rear window defogger. We could have turned on the wipers. That would have added another, you know, maybe 8 amps of current withdrawal. But we didn't. Wow, what the world here. There we go. So how could we make sure that the alternator has the capability, I don't know why these auto headlights aren't turning off, of putting out 150 amps? Well, we could simply put our carbon pile tester back on here and send it full nuclear with it running and then measure what the output is. But it's not that important to me. And I don't want to risk popping a fuse in anything or any of that stuff. As long as it can keep up with the electrical demands of the car, I'm happy with that. And I think you guys are happy too. We're gonna leave it at that, folks. This lady's gonna be happy. The car's charging. The alternator can easily keep up with the electrical demands of the vehicle. So that's good. And it's easily putting out 100 amps just sitting there at an idle with normal loads on the car. Normal. Yeah, we could add more. I'm sure it'll keep up. Be careful if you're using your toaster or your, you know, the old switch type toaster, the rocker switch. Know how much current that's pulling or how much of a load it says it's putting on the circuit before you push that button. If that was, let's say this was an 80 amp alternator circuit, and you just nuked it with, 100 plus amps from your toaster, well, you could have blown a fuse that's expensive, difficult to get, sometimes obsolete. So think about that. I do like the carbon pile tester because it gives us the ability to kind of regulate that to some degree. And again, we could have stuck it on the alternator, started dumping a load on there, get her up as high as we dare, but a little risky business there. I like to utilize the load that the alternator is actually under, the car, the headlights, the wipers, all that stuff, all that's real loads in real life. So I'm gonna try to record more of these silly videos for you guys. Generally speaking, I get cars like this, I bring them in, I fix them, I put them outside. We don't record them. But hopefully you can learn a little something from it. Several of you have expressed that even though I think the videos are stupid, you do pick up something, whether it's a little trick like using the Allen wrench and a tensioner, or how to tell if current's leaving your battery versus going into your battery. Kind of simple stuff. And if that helps people, so be it. And you help yourself to that comment section. It's free. You go down there, you leave a comment. You find us on the Insta, that's free too. And the Facebook, that's free as well. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.